And now for the major announcements.
Da 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 da.
Oh, Marcus, for years listeners have been urging with us, pleading with us, begging us to run Wellness Couch events in their own hometown and not just in Melbourne.
Well, get ready, folks, because in 2018 there's not one, not two, but 3 major events coming your way.
The Wellness Base Camp is our brand new one-day event featuring your favourite Wellness Couch podcasters in your very own home state.
In 2018, we are coming to Brisbane, Adelaide and Kiama, just south of Sydney, for one inspirational day of health and wellness.
Oh, incredible lineups to MP. We've got the Up for Chatters, we've got Joe Witten, we've got Fuad, we've got Cale Brock, Audra Starkey, the incredible Marcus Pearce,
Brett Hill, and so many more. Now, seats are strictly limited to these events. The Wellness Base Camp is not a big Wellness Summit 1,000 people job, so do not muck around.
No, you got to get in quick, MP. The early bird 2-for-1 tickets are now available.
Best Christmas present ever.
To book your tickets and for all the information, head to thewellnessbasecamp.com.
TheWellnessCouch.com, streaming wellness into your lives. This is Up for a Chat with Cindy O'Mara, Karen Smith, and Kim Morrison.
Here we are, up for a chat about the hottest topics that are important to you, inspiring you to awaken the change within. I'm Cindy O'Meara, and Karen and Kim are not here today. But I just want to tell you that as I travel, and I've done a lot of travel this year, I've been to the US 7 times, I fly all around Australia, I've been to New Zealand probably 6 times, England once this year. So I do a lot of travel, and I meet some really interesting people. And I was heading out to Longreach through the years. I've been out to Longreach, I think, 3 times this year. But I was heading out to Longreach, and I had this lady come up to me on the very small plane out to Longreach and say to me, "Are you Cindy O'Meara?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Oh, I thought I recognised you." And that was that. We chatted the whole way, basically, to Longreach, and we wished we'd had more time because we had so much time. So I decided to interview Joy McClymout because she is one amazing remote woman. And I say remote is because she lives in a very remote area of Australia. And for those international people listening to this conversation, a remote area means that it could be quite a few kilometres to the front gate. Sometimes I've known it to be 40k to the front gate. And that's before you hit the bitumen, and sometimes you don't hit the bitumen then, and it could be 2 hours to town or an hour to town. So I wanted to talk to Joy on Up for a Chat because I felt that she has an amazing story. But before we get into Joy's story, I just want to ask Joy to paint the picture of where you live, your family, and the station life that you live on. Welcome.
Sure, and thanks. Great. It's great to be here having a chat. I like a bit of a chat, so it's very easy to do. Basically, we live on a cattle and sheep station, 100 kilometres from our closest town, which is Longreach. And actually, the start of our property is 40 kilometres from our house. So it is a fair way to our front gate, one way, and then probably about 40 kilometres in the other direction to the other end of the property. Basically, our landscape is wide open spaces in Downs country and then some hilly, rocky outcrops in others. I live on the property here. This is my husband's family property, and it's been in the family for nearly 100 years. And I live here with him and my 4 children and my husband's parents, my in-laws. So it's a family-run sheep and cattle station, and life is very good. It's very challenging. It's also extremely variable. Obviously, we're at the mercy of the seasons, but there's something really amazing about living out here, and unbelievably enough, I've never felt really isolated. We're 100 k's from town. It takes us an hour and 20 to get into the shops and into town, but I don't feel like we're in the middle of nowhere, even though we actually are. It is an isolated part of the country, but there is so much peacefulness and so much beauty, and we really do run our own show out here. There's so much to gain from that, and that we have a lot of freedom that a lot of people in towns and cities don't have. So I really value that, and I appreciate it every day. My children do School of the Air, so we do School of Distance Education through Longreach. So our back veranda of the house is actually the schoolroom. My children dial in on a lesson each day with their teacher via video conference and the telephone. So that puts a huge demand on our telecommunication system. It's really important to have all of that humming along well. And, we basically operate both types of sheep, so merino for wool and meat sheep, Dorpers, and have cattle. So every day is filled with something going on the property, whether it be waters or fences or checking stock or stock work, or it could be office work, budgeting, whatever it might be. There's always something different, and I think that's what makes living on a property and managing a property so challenging but satisfying as well. Does that paint the picture enough, Cindy?
Oh, I think it does, but I think you need to say the ages of your children because, they're doing School of the Air. It means they're in the schoolroom and you're having to be around. I know you have a governess, but it's, what are the ages, and tell us about the role of the governess.
Yeah, so my children the youngest is 4 and the eldest is 9. So there's a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old in there. In the middle, and so next year they'll actually be all in the schoolroom full time. So this year 3 of them have been in there, and then the youngest one's done e-kindy, so he's only part-time in there. I actually am a bit cheeky. I am a trained teacher, but I employ a govie for a number of reasons, but one is to keep the relationship between my children and I really positive, because it can go a bit pear-shaped in there at times. And also to make sure that I get enough of an opportunity to fulfill the roles in our business as well. So basically life, it is very busy because the governess and, is usually known as the home tutor. Whoever's teaching them at home is called the home tutor. Has to manage the on-air timetable, so dialing them in and out of on-air lessons and who's on what line. We need 2 phone lines to run the schoolroom. So basically, kids are dialing in and out most of the day to get their on-air lessons done, and they do a lesson with their teacher, and they do a reading lesson, and they do writing lessons, and all these other sorts of things. And then off-air, the governess or the home tutor, whoever it might like, whether it's a mum or whatever, has to then complete the lessons from the other subject areas that aren't delivered online. So the teacher of the class might do English lesson on air, but then we have to do the maths lesson off air. So we might do maths and geography or maths and science, and then there's also spelling and handwriting. So the day in the schoolroom is quite intense because there's only a small number of kids in there, but, you're just going from one child to the next. And we're really only in there from 8 till 2. Our school day, and every schoolroom will run differently, but by 2 o'clock, everybody's had enough of each other and they just need to get outside. So the governess has their own separate quarters here, and we keep it really simple. We just have them doing the schoolwork and doing the schoolroom, and they need some time out from the kids as much as we do. Basically make sure that they have a really good balance in their life as well to keep them happy, living this far out of town with just the family as the social network. So it can get pretty, pressing at times, but if you just have to make sure that everybody gets some time out from whatever their demand is so that everyone stays nice and happy and relaxed.
Yeah, it's absolutely the best idea, because I think that's in anybody's life, is that you need that balance. And, they always talk about balances of life, but I think when you love what you love doing is when you get the most amount of balance. And I can't even imagine how your governess, or what your governess would do when she's not with the children. Does she ride horses? Does she enjoy walking? What does she do when she's not with the children?
Yeah, well, fortunately enough, she does love walking, and she's got her little dog out here, so she does go for really long walks. She's also studying, she's doing an external agribusiness degree. So outside of school hours, she has got something that does occupy her time. She can come over here any time and have a chat with us, but it's good to have that separation from each other too, because it allows everyone to recharge and keep it all nice and simple. And she's got her deal, I've got my deal, and yeah, it makes it a really nice sort of environment if we've got separate things happening.
Yeah. You know, I homeschooled my children. We travelled around Australia for a couple of years and I homeschooled my children, and our hours, you know, they began around 9 a.m. And we would finish by 11:30. We were 2.5 hours. We didn't do distance education or School of the Air. We actually did, a pace-based program that was out of America, even though it had Australian history and things like that. And, you know, when you travel and when you're in places that are different, you actually learn more about Australian history than you do in the schoolyard. So what I found interesting, though, is that my kids knew that when they finished school, we would play. So I would find them up sometimes at 6 a.m. in the morning working through their paces, and that was the name of their books. So they'd be working through their paces of their 4 subjects. They'd be done by 8 a.m., 8:30. We'd have breakfast and go play for the day. So
yeah, perfect. It's a really good balance.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed homeschooling. I found it less stressful than sending our children to a private school, that they had to have their hair in a certain way, they had to have certain lunch boxes, and so I really, really enjoyed it. It was a lot more casual than sending them to school. Now, I know that you're not from that region, so would you describe your life before you got to out to the station where you have only cattle and sheep?
So basically I'm from the Darling Downs originally, and so that was like farming country. So when I came out here, I thought the whole area had been cleared of trees. I didn't know there was such a thing as open downs, natural open downs country. So that was a bit of a shock. I'd been always in different locations, you know, for every 2 years after I finished school pretty much. And so I'd travelled with teaching, and my first teaching post was actually close to you at the Sunshine Coast there. And even though I loved my time at the coast, don't get me wrong, I never really felt at home there. And I'm just not a coasty chick. And it's so weird. You only know that when you leave, and you just go, oh, it's like, you know, a square peg in a round hole there. And it's not until you go somewhere. And so after the coast, I went overseas and worked for a couple of years, and then I came back and I got posted to a distance education school in Charters Towers. And obviously Charters Towers is not a really small town, but it's not a big town either, and it's country. And I just felt immediately at home there. I just felt like I'd found my roots pretty much, and then you feel so grounded. When you know you're in the right place, you can actually really sense that. And so from that point on, I just knew that I wasn't meant to be in an urban city working. I was meant to be somewhere rural and remote, because that's really where I felt the most, you know, relaxed and true to myself. And yeah, it just totally suited me. So it's funny, you only know that when you've got something to compare it to. So from there, I met my husband through some mutual friends in Charters Towers, and met him at the Ekka of all places, and then moved to Longreach and started teaching. And I was teaching at the high school, and then I got a post to a teaching principal position, which is like a one-teacher school where you're the teacher and the principal, and I had a maximum of 14 kids in the school, and it was on a property, a sheep property, not far from where I live now. It's actually closed now, unfortunately, because, you know, kids and families leaving the district. But that was where I really became connected with this area particularly, and started to change the way I do things a little bit with health and fitness particularly, but also became aware of what it was like to live, you know, semi-isolated. And you know, there's isolation when you're hours and hours from town, and then there's us, which I think we still feel. I feel like I'm in the burbs sometimes with just being an hour and 20 out of town, but there's still that feeling of isolation and some of the challenges there. So yeah, that was how and what life was like leading up to where I am right now, Cindy.
Now I have a question, because there was wheat and cotton in an area that you lived in Goondiwindi. Mm-hmm. Do you remember, and because, you know, I'm very much about sustainable agriculture and things like that, do you remember many chemicals being sprayed in your region?
Oh, absolutely. Cotton is one of the most heavily sprayed crops. And like, I'm really out of that circle now, but every school holidays, we would have a couple of different job options. One was cotton chipping, where you'd chip out all the weeds from the cotton crop, and you were touching and breathing and everything, and the cotton crops had been sprayed 15 times beforehand and 15 times after. I'm sure there were some rules and regulations around, you know, the timing of that, and I'm sure they've tightened up that, so I can't be true about it, but you could smell it. And you just knew, and then you'd see the aerial spraying going on all of the time, and where we lived in Goondiwindi, there was cropping all around us, and we were in between two cotton gins as well. So you'd see the aerial sprayers go over all the time. Now, I have no idea what they were spraying. It could have been natural, it could have been whatever, but there's a bucket load of chemical that goes into cotton. And any, like, cropping it just blows me away, the amount of stuff that people put in the soil and on the plants trying to make it yield a little bit more, it's just huge. So, and to me, that was like, you know, a bit normal back then. But now, looking back on it, I just think, wow, that's just bucket loads of money, and all just for an increase in yield, just a little bit more, which, I don't know. Anyway, it's a pretty heavily ridden type of business. I'm sure there's lots of different options for people nowadays, and I know that when my father was putting in wheat crops and sorghum crops, we actually didn't spray, but we weren't revolving our whole livelihood around cropping either. We always had other jobs. So, it's a bit of a hard one.
Well, I have a small farm in Reesfield, which is just in the Sunshine Coast hinterland. It's only 60 acres, and we're creating a holistic farming and type of permaculture environment, and we don't use chemicals or anything like that. And we had an open day. We've had 3 open days in the 18 months since we kind of started this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And we had a wheat farmer from Western Australia come, and I think they had 10,000 acres. And she said that they spent $700,000 on chemicals. And that there had to be another way, you know, the amount of money that they were spending on chemicals. So, and, you know, she talked about the chemicals that they were using, and this is not the discussion today, but I find it, you know, really interesting. So did you have
it is. It's really quite intriguing to see the amount of money being spent on chemicals and whether they could just forfeit that, and would the bottom line really be that much different? And you just have to question whether it's worth it. I know there's a lot of organisations going on. We've done a lot of work with a couple of groups and training on how to be more sustainable with land management, and it's really important. It's like the most vital role of farmers and anyone that's in the grazing industry, and we take it really seriously. So I think there's a lot to learn from that. Yeah.
Now, another question about being around those crops and the chemicals. Did you have any illnesses?
A hell of a lot of asthma. And even now, cotton, we're feeding cottonseed to our stock as supplement. So, you know, as drought feeding. So cottonseed is really great for stock and sheep, particularly when we're drought stricken. And so we will often buy a lot of cottonseed if we're feeding over the dry. And I can't even shovel it without getting asthma immediately. And my mother has suffered from asthma a great deal from just, I think, living between two cotton gins. Now, it could be that cotton fibre just really aggravates things, but I still cannot get over the fact of how much, you know, aerial spraying goes on around us, and that's got to have an impact. So the quality of the air is just huge. So I had a lot of bronchitis, asthma, chest infections type of thing when I was a kid. And as soon as I moved away from Goondiwindi, as soon as out here, I've had nothing, no asthma, nothing. Moved to the coast, nothing. So there's got to be, and as soon as I go home, I get the same, I get more asthma. So there's something there for sure.
Yeah, interesting. Now, you're the owner and founder of a company or a business, and it's an online business called Off the Track Training. Mm-hmm. And first of all, let's talk about your life and how it led up to you doing this amazing work with people who are in remote areas, and they may not be so remote, but you're helping people to do off-the-track training. So let's talk about your love and how you got there.
Yeah, for sure. So it's a story and a half, but, you know, you can only join the dots behind you. You can't join them in front, and I'm thankfully at the point now where I can look back and join the dots to see how I've got to the point where I am right now. And I have no idea what the dots in front of me are, but at least I know the decisions and the things that I've done and been through over the years have led me to this point. And it's a great feeling to know that even all of your mistakes and all of your failures were for a really good reason. And what I'm doing today was because of some of those mistakes and some of those things I didn't do so well. So as a kid, I was always really sporty and always active. Loved sport all the time. Swimming, basketball. And when you're in a small town, you know, there's nothing much else to do. You play sport. That's what you do. And it was a great way to grow up. Lots of different types of competition, lots of different levels of competition. And yeah, just had a bucket load of fun. That love for sport and physical activity has always been with me. I've never not loved it, which is a really fortunate place to be. And I think that's something you have to really instill in your children, is a love for being active. And once you've got it, that belief in how important it is and that confidence that you get, it doesn't really ever die, and you are more likely to maintain that for life. But through my 20s, moving to university and, you know, going through those stages in life where you're making lots of friends, partying too much, you pick up habits and you pick up bad ones. And basically that college lifestyle is not very conducive to healthy living, as we all know. And yeah, it was the first time I'd moved away from home. I'd been at home for, you know, all my life up to year 12. And then I moved away to college and drank too much, ate too much rubbish, didn't do as much exercise as I would have done when I was in school. And your body shape changes. And then all of these issues start appearing about your body image, you know, your skin, your mood, everything, starts to get disrupted because of what you're doing. And nobody can tell you otherwise at that point. And nobody actually was telling me otherwise, to be honest. Like, my parents were just thinking I was the same person, and nobody else was sending any messages to the college or anyone within it about, you know, maybe reducing the amount of alcohol, maybe not eating as much sugar. It's not like it is today. Those messages, I didn't even see them on TV, or I was completely oblivious to them back then. So it was really around the low-fat era as well. So, you know, everything was sugary and low in fat, but completely rotting us from the inside out, no doubt. So I picked up some really bad habits around that, and not only with healthy food and, you know, not only with food, but with my mindset around my body. I became really conscious of what I looked like because I'd put on weight, and became very frustrated, a little bit sad about it all, lost some confidence for sure, and started to overanalyze what I was eating, and started to just do a few silly things like eating a packet of grapes a day and, you know, going really light on the food. And it was contradictory to what I was actually achieving because I messed up my metabolism hugely. So basically I picked up some bad habits then, and that carried a little bit through to when I got my first teaching job at the Sunshine Coast, and I started doing triathlons, and I started doing them because, well, I had done them through uni, but I started doing Ironman triathlon training, which is, you know, the long distance triathlon. And it was demanding, and it was something I really loved, and I loved the challenge of that distance, and I'd never done it before. It was great. But I found myself doing it to become and to be seen this person that looked a certain way, rather than what I used to do sport for when I was a kid, which was the fire in your belly you get from doing something tough, that sense of achievement. And that still was there, but it was totally overshadowed by my focus on having the body, the beach body, the body that everybody thought was associated with a triathlete. And that really did take over most of my thinking around that Ironman triathlon day. So that wasn't such a healthy approach to fitness. And I'd lost that really innocent, beautiful time where you did sport for sport's sake. You did it because of the way it made you feel when you were moving and active in that headspace. I'd lost it a bit, and it all became about the body, and it all became about what it looked like and what you seemed to be. And, you know, and it just really changed my perception a bit. And I can look back on it now and feel quite sad that I lost that freedom from that attitude with fitness when I was a kid, and it became such a different focus through my 20s. And then, you know, I went overseas and kept training, and I was still partying hard overseas, but managed to make it through to an Ironman triathlon in Hawaii. The World Championships came back, went over to Hawaii, finished that, and then I went to Charters Towers and started my new job. And then I really did have a turnaround there. I felt really grounded in a small country town. I really enjoyed my job. I gave triathlons away for a bit, and I just did some simple stuff around fitness. I started to just choose exercises that I wanted to do rather than I had to do. I ate I was living with a grazier, and he was always bringing home meat. And, you know, ironically enough, for all of my triathlon days, I'd been eating low fat and very little meat. So basically I was loving this grass-fed beef we were eating and these just simple home-cooked meals. So it was back to that. And that really had a big impact on me, and I started to realize the mistakes I'd made in the past. And then it got even more interesting as I moved on to the next chapter, to Longreach. And that's when sort of my life turned a point with my husband, and where I met my husband, and basically moved out to the property, got married, moved to the property, and had our first child, which I'm just going to tell my children to pipe down a bit.
I love it.
Don't you love children? I can hear them outside running their cars up and down the veranda and go, ah! Anyway, nothing like a bit of interruption.
That's when you work from home, that's what happens, especially when you have 4 children.
And you've just got to roll with the punches and not get too frazzled by it. But I put myself on mute then to make sure that I didn't sound too grouchy. But, so basically, when I was teaching at the small school and I was living out there by myself, I still wanted to be healthy and fit, but I lost that connection of what it was like to exercise with other people, and where other people, you know, met up for coffee after a walk, and the fitness side of things wasn't as social. So we created a group there called Workout Women, where we'd meet on a Friday. We'd do a fitness session, and we'd always have a little foodie chat or something like that. And that really made that connection happen, and it sort of encouraged you to keep going with your fitness routine. When I moved to the property here and had our first baby, that's when the tables turned again, and it was so hard. It was, you know, the lowest priority on the list when you're on a property is looking after yourself. Well, it shouldn't be, but it actually ends up being like that. The fences, the waters, the stock, they get all the attention, and then you and your health needs come dead last. And it's the job of the person individually to say, right, I'm going to turn this around and make myself a priority on that list rather than all about the property. And that was tough, you know, 7, 8 years ago. I think now it's different. It's really improved. People are becoming more and more aware of the importance of looking after themselves and the benefit that has for their ability to manage such a large-scale property or a business. And so when I first started off-the-track training, it was from going out for a run one day with a very sloppy post-baby core and 6 bras on, flies everywhere, and thinking, I have actually got an innate love for health and fitness. Like, I know it's a priority, and this is tough for even the people like me. So imagine what it's like for people that have no idea what to do, have never done it before, are living in an isolated place, and badly need to start. And that's when off-the-track training sort of popped into my mind, and I thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to create my own training group that takes into consideration our lifestyle, because there was nothing that could even relate remotely to what it was like living in the bush without a gym, without proper gear, without good advice on how to move and how to do this exercise, or there was nothing like that. And so off the track, I just basically created a group of friends and started emailing them workouts, ideas, discussion topics. We'd talk about lots of stuff, and that's honestly where the learning started. So I've probably been doing a research project on rural and remote fitness for about nearly 10 years now, I think. So from that first time, because my eldest daughter is nearly 10. So basically, it's developed so much since then because obviously technology, our connectivity and our accessibility to technology has improved, and the virtual world is endless. And we still have lots of challenges, don't get me wrong, but the way that we can communicate with people nationally and globally is huge now. So the messages that I can give to people, the types of training, support, encouragement, advice, all those things that we can do together, regardless of where you live, is all possible now. It was a little bit harder back when I was emailing everybody individually, trying to get them to talk and trying to get them to email each other and email me back. It was pretty time consuming, but now there's just so many more opportunities for us to connect people. So basically Off the Track Training now has become this virtual fitness centre for people living anywhere. The original slogan I had was going somewhere in the middle of nowhere, but, you know, we can still feel like we're in the middle of nowhere sitting at the Sunshine Coast. And to be honest, I was in Mooloolaba living and I felt like I was in the middle of nowhere because I just wasn't a gym junkie and I just didn't turn me on that way. So it's really about offering people an option to be healthy and fit in their own landscape regardless of where they live or what they have around them. And that's vitally important, as well as the connection of people with a similar passion. It was always about let's make health and fitness the norm rather than the exception. And that's when I first started in you know, talking to rural and remote people about health and fitness, it was the exception. It was like, oh, you just work harder, don't you? Oh, come on, you need to get on a fence line and sweat it out a little bit. And that's all well and good, but there's so much more benefit to having that conscious exercise habit humming along and eating well and those sorts of things to managing a property. And people really believe that now. So it has actually become more of the norm. I hope that paints a good picture of Off the Track Training for you, Cindy. I know it's a bit hard to explain sometimes.
No, you've explained it absolutely beautiful. But, you know, I know that you are circled with people that are really interested in this. But I know one of the reasons I go out to Longreach is a very good friend of mine works at one of the stations out there. It's 1.5 million acres. She's the cook. Mm-hmm. She has usually 15 people that work. There's no family really there. There's a manager herself, and then a bunch of young people come in and work. And when she first started, like she's been my friend for 25 years, when she first started, she went into that kitchen and all there was Maggi this and package that and fake gravy, and there was nothing there that for her would enable her to have these kids working at their very best. She also found that many of the young girls and some of the young guys were on antidepressants or were depressed or had anxiety. So she went into that station and she basically changed everything around. She stopped using all the packaged food. She did everything from scratch. She created a veggie garden. So I know that, you know, you have circled yourself with people, but you know, the norm out there that she has seen, and she's done that 1.5 million acres as well as another 4.5 million acres where, you know, the food bill was not good enough for these kids to be healthy. And it's so good to see people like her and people like you out there teaching. But I know there's a lot of suicide out there, and I understand there's droughts and there's depression and anxiety, and so we need you to do more work, I think, Joy. I'm sorry, but Joy, you're going to have to and I'm really serious. It's like you've touched some people, but there's so many more that we need to touch, and so I think that it would be great for people to get on board with you so they can help in their community as well, or their outer community. So anybody who's listening to this that lives in a remote area, and even if you're not in a remote area but you love being out there, maybe, you know, touch base with Joy. So I'll make sure in the show notes that I have everything for you to contact Joy, but also I will give you, at the end, Joy, you can talk about how people can contact you as well. And sure. Now I had one other. I know what I wanted to say. I want you to tell everybody what we've spoken about before, and that is your running with purpose. When you and your husband might go check that the water is running and the dams are full and things like that. I loved that idea. When I heard that, I went, I like that, running for purpose, you know. So tell everybody what you do.
Yeah, no, it's really, you think it's easy. You think it's easy to fit in a run, but it's not always that easy. You know, when you've got lots of other things to do and it's time consuming and you've got 4 children and things like that. So my husband luckily has got a really good, solid fitness belief too. And to help him, and, we always love seeing different parts of the property, and we've got to check a great deal of land here. We've got 27,000 hectares to check and lots of dams and bores. So we often do a bit of a tag team where he'll drive to a water point or drive one direction and I'll run towards him and meet him somewhere, and then I'll pick up where he left off on the water run and then he'll run home. And so we'll often do that bit of a tag team where we don't have to do an out and back, which we hate. We can get to see different types of country that we may not see when we're driving. So we can follow a cattle pad to a water. We can go off-road a little bit. And it's just a really good way to, 1, get out and about and see the rest of the property, but 2, do something together that ticks the box with fitness as well. Like, we do it heaps of different ways. There's often been times when I've ridden my bike towards a grid, left it there, knowing that somebody's coming out of town can pick it up, and I run home. And so there's lots of different ways that you can integrate it with your lifestyle when you know that, we've got to get to that bore and check that. And I'll just, tick off my fitness session while I'm there or on the way there, or can I meet you here? Just takes a little bit of a thinking to get around that.
Well, I think it's so important that we look at our nutrition as well as our fitness. And you're right, we think that it's just a matter of, like you were saying, some of your people were saying, it's just a matter of working harder at the fence. But I think taking that time out to get that fitness is really important. So what about nutrition? Do you talk to your group about nutrition?
Yeah, I do, and I take a lead from people like you. So basically I paraphrase everything. I actually have a girl that I work with too, Stacey Curcio from Cultivating Wellness. She's a wonderful follower of yours as well, a big fan. And she's been to a couple of things where you've spoken, Cindy, and really got a lot out of it. But we work together. She delivers a lot of the food stuff because she's so much more qualified and has such an in-depth knowledge of the human body and the human biome, and we go into a great deal of depth like that because basically we value the importance of understanding why you should eat well, not just eat this, follow this meal plan, that sort of thing. People really need to know why so that they can make better choices at their own supermarket and in their own pantry. But honestly, it is all about whatever we develop, there's always 3 focus areas: fitness, nutrition, and motivation. And those 3 areas are what's needed to be really humming along with your health, we believe. So, and you can't outrun a bad diet. Everybody knows that saying, but do they really believe how important food is? I mean, it is not only important to lose weight, which is where everybody focuses on food. They think, I need to focus on food because I need to lose weight. No, you need to focus on food so that you are healthier for life and that you make better choices naturally and it's a healthy habit and your brain is in a good place and your gut's working well and you live longer and have more energy. And there's so many other reasons to eat well. So the quality of our food when we live out here is not always fresh, but there's a lot of different things that you can do to make the best choice possible. And, like fermenting, and I know you're a big fan of it. It's an old traditional way of making food, of preparing food and keeping food for longer. But some of those old traditional food methods in the bush have been lost a little bit because of convenience foods. And we all just need to get back to the kitchen a little bit. And I think it's important. And like you said about your friend Ricky going to that stock kitchen, well, I can tell you there's some crazy stories about how much soft drink and processed food has made their way into rural and remote communities. I did a project or program last year or the year before in a small town here in Western Queensland, a very small town, like smaller than Longreach. And their consumption of soft drink was higher per capita than any capital city. So basically, you know, it was going through like 7 cartons of V and the population was 50. You know, like it's just huge, the amount of soft drink and processed food consumption that was going through that corner store per capita. And big eye opener. So yeah, there's still lots more work to do, Cindy, and like you're saying to me, keep doing work. Well, we've all got to keep on fighting for these people that may not have the willpower and the knowledge to make those changes happen.
I know. And, you know, I am coming to Longreach. Now, we've been talking, and I will be coming to Longreach next year to do, so that's 2018, to do part of the rural tour of Queensland. So I will let you know, and we will get as many people as we can, and I'd love to, you know, have you there, and I'd love the health food store to be there. I know there was a health food store in the Longreach area, but last time I was there, I think it had closed down. Am I right?
Yeah, that's unfortunately right. Yeah.
So we've got to see one of the things that I do with my Functional Nutrition Academy, and with teaching people about nutrition is you become the resource, and I know that this is what you are. You become the resource of knowledge that knows where to get good quality meat. Well, we all, you know, Longreach is pretty good for that. You know, or good quality fruits and vegetables, and what is online that I can go to in order to get good food, or what cookbook is the best cookbook, or how can I achieve this, how can I get that? And I believe every community, no matter whether you're in the city or whether you're out in the country or in a remote area, we all need these so that people can learn. Because we're so used to go to the grocery store, and especially in the city, it could be our local grocery store, which is a franchise, or not a franchise, but a conglomerate and a corporation that isn't really interested in your health. It's only interested in its shareholders. So when we start to look at our local community and start supporting our local farmers and our local producers, then I think there's a big difference that starts to happen. I know for Ricky, my friend, you know, for them to get good quality beef, they do a killer. And I'm sure is that everybody out there, Joy? Does everyone do a killer?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we don't do many beef killers because we can't saddle here, but we do heaps of lamb and mutton and that sort of thing. But the local butcher here is actually stocking local grass-fed beef and lamb and goat, I think. It's happening, that connection between local producers and direct to shop front. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. It's wonderful. So tell me, what else do you discuss or how do you do this? That's what I really want to know, is that do you all meet online? How do you do it? Explain a day in the life of Joy.
Oh my goodness, this is exciting. So this is actually the exciting part, because the big gap when you're living in rural and remote is that you can't meet up with anyone and go and do that workout, and your internet's not fast enough to do video, and you're alone and you don't have that training group or that contact with your coach, which ultimately I'm the coach. I've got a couple of other people that work with me too that are trainers. So basically we do live workouts. So at 5:45 in the morning, everyone dials in on like a teleconference number like you and I are talking on right now, Cindy, and I'll boss them through a workout. They'll get an email to remind them to turn up and to bring this to the workout, and then I'll say, hey everybody, welcome to today's live workout. This is what we're going to do, and I will be doing the workout with them. So I'll say, okay, everybody stand up, take your feet about hip width apart and just bend down side to side doing some standing side bends, and we'll do a warm-up, and then we'll do the main set. And I'll choose exercises that they will learn and know from the online program I deliver. So basically I created this virtual fitness centre called Joy's Fitness Hub, and even though it's Joy's, it's actually Joy and Stacey, and it's not really mine, it's the joys of being healthy and well. So that's pretty much what it means. But the fitness hub is really, fitness it's about mental fitness, physical fitness, spiritual, it's all those sorts of things. And in that site, it's a full-blown food, fitness and motivation program, plus they get access to bucket loads of teleconferences with guests like you and lots of other people around fitness, food and motivation, as well as me doing some talks on different types of fitness training and how to get the best from your running or whatever it might be. Plus bunch of experts that are in there giving people support. Because as we know, when you live rural and remote, you don't have a physio down the road, you don't have a podiatrist at the next corner, you don't have, an exercise physiologist to get advice from. So I've sort of got the help of all those types of people in the hub to answer people's questions on a general level. And then all of those people run their own private businesses so they can have a personal phone consult as well. So basically the Fitness Hub is about providing people with a program as well as a training group. So we do those live workouts as well as a way to inform them about why they should be eating like this, why that type of fitness works, and keeping their motivation humming. So the most significant thing we do is when people want to give up on themselves, we don't let them. We remind them of their commitment. We remind them of the importance of health, because people at the slightest setback or the slightest, I'm not getting anywhere, or the slightest bit of busyness will always pull out on their health and fitness first. And that's the first thing to go. And I always say to everyone, the exact reason why you can't fit this in is the exact reason why you should. The exact reason why you're sick at the moment is the exact reason why you should stay. The exact reason why you're feeling injured at the moment is the exact reason why you should do this exercise. So, it's all these things, these excuses why people drop out that they need to be called on for. And I think that's probably one of the most vital parts of the hub, is that it makes you just really find that inner belief in, okay, I actually do really want this, and gets that fire in your belly again. Because as we know, Cindy, your motivation goes up and down all the time, and people have to know that and be okay with that and just be willing to ride through the waves a little bit and not jump to conclusions about the fact that, I failed again, and they would give up on themselves. So, yeah, the Fitness Hub provides all those programs, all that support, but also, most importantly, that training group and that motivation.
I just love what you're doing. One of the things I thought of as you were just speaking then was, I always say this with regards to nutrition, and it's, if your best friend has asked you to do something with them, and you have promised that you will be there, it doesn't matter what's happening in your family. The kids might be going crazy, your husband might need you. You say, I'm sorry, but I promised my best friend that I would do this. I have to go. And no matter what is happening, you go to your best friend to be with them, to help them, because they've requested that. And I go, we'll make you your best friend, so that no matter what is happening in your world, like I often hear people say, Cindy, I was doing so well on your program and life was going well, and then this happened and I went back to my old ways. And I just say, well, would you have allowed your best friend to go back to her old ways? Would you have realised that the stress means that you don't have that resilience if you're not well? So I think we need to treat ourselves as our best friends, that we committed, something to ourselves or to our best friend, and we have to stick to it. And when you say it like that, people go, yeah, you're right. I would stop everything for my best friend, especially women. Women especially will jump hoops to save their friend.
Before themselves.
Yeah, but they won't do it for themselves. So I would say make you your best friend and the others acquaintances or second besties, but make you the best friend. And it sounds like that's what you're doing, is that you're making them accountable and you're making sure that they stick to their commitments. I think it's wonderful. So
and it's heaps of fun. That's the thing too. Everyone says hello to each other on the live workouts. They can ask me questions at any time. A lot of the time when you sign up to things online, you never get to actually speak to that person or ask a question. And that's so valuable for people to stay connected and accountable, that they, can actually talk to the trainer or the person that's helping them and ask them the question, or be honest and say, I'm falling off the wagon here. What am I going to do? So we all need to understand that that's okay. You just got to fess up and you've got to move on.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Now, do you have any words of wisdom or anything else that you would like to say to our listeners before I ask you my final questions?
Oh, the final question. I love it. I suppose I'm so excited that people will listen to this and take on board some of these messages. Like I said, none of this learning actually is just plucked out of nowhere. You go through these things in life, these journeys, they point you in a direction and they're there to teach you. I've learnt so much from failing at things, so much more than I have from succeeding. And we all need to just really pay attention to, okay, what's this trying to teach me? This is a tragedy, this is a terrible thing that's happened, or this is a real challenge for me. What's it trying to teach me? And I think that's the most important and valuable thing that we can do when it comes to our health. What's this symptom? What's this sign? What's this feeling? What's this mood trying to tell me that I need? But yeah, so that'd be it from me, Cindy.
Wonderful. All right. So what's your favourite song to work out to?
Ironically enough, it's not really boppy, but I love a bit of country music, and I've got a playlist.
Line dancing.
Yeah. Don't go there. It's not that bad. But I love this song called Time to Run, and it's by a band called Lord Huron, and it is really good. And it's from the movie Unbranded, which is about those guys that tamed the Mustangs in America and rode them from, America to Canada or something like that across the states, and they had some beautiful music in there as they went through the Grand Canyon. So anyway, Time to Run, Lord Huron.
Oh, I'm going to look that one up. Your favourite fiction book, your favourite fiction book.
I loved The Persimmon Tree by Wilbur Smith. Was that Bryce Courtney? I always get them mixed up. But The Persimmon Tree was great, and The People of the Book by Geraldine Brooks. Oh, that is good. Historical fiction is my favourite.
That's what I love. I love historical fiction. Mine's Judy Nunn. I really like Judy Nunn.
Okay, I'll have to read some of that. So that's good. But The People of the Book is, awesome.
People of the Book. All right. And your favourite non-fiction book?
Probably The Motivational Manifesto by Brendon Burchard, and the other one I'm reading, which is very heavy, which is called Beyond Training by Ben Greenfield. He's an American exercise, hacker, and he's written a book called Beyond Training, Mastering Endurance, Health and Life, and it's very full on. I think I can only read a page a night. It's a lot of information. And then Brendon Burchard is a motivational leadership speaker from America, and he's written a great, it sort of looks like a Bible, but it's called the Motivational Manifesto, and it's got some great ways to stay motivated and think about life. So, that'd be my two non-fiction.
Wow, you're not going to believe this, but I've just been given the Motivation Manifesto.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Section 1 on human nature, on freedom, on fear, on motivation. And then Section 2, the 9 declarations. Will we read those? You don't mind me? I'll just go through them.
You go,
We shall meet life with full presence and power. We shall reclaim our agenda. We shall defeat our demons. We shall advance with abandon. We shall practice joy. Oh, there we go, Joy, you're in there. We shall practice joy and gratitude. We shall not break integrity. We shall amplify love. We shall inspire greatness. And we shall slow time. Oh my gosh, that's it. I'm going to read it now that you say. Yeah, it was given to me as a gift, and it's just been sitting on my bookshelf, and I just haven't had the motivation to do a pun. I haven't had the motivation to read it, so I've just pulled it out, and I will read it. And the last thing is, if you had one food that you had to live the rest of your life with, or meal, what would it be?
Oh, do you know what? I am just loving my breakfast hashes at the moment that have got fried up zucchini, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, capsicum and red onion with a bit of scrambled egg and bacon in there and sprinkled with some French lavender salt. That is my absolute bomb meal at the moment. So I could probably do that for quite a while.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Now, I want everybody to know how to contact you, especially if we have women in remote areas or men in remote areas that would absolutely love to get into contact with you. Is it your business? Is it through your Facebook, or let everybody know how they can contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a variety of ways. If you go to my website, offthetracktraining.com.au, you can have a look at our programs and send me a message through there, the Contact Us button, or you can get onto the Off the Track Training Facebook page and put a comment in there or message me privately through there. That's super cool. Otherwise, follow us on Instagram as well, Off the Track Training, and you can send me a message through there. All those messages don't go to anyone else, they go to me, guys. So just you can say, "Hi Joy, I listen to you here, and this is where I live and I'd love your help." We've got a lot of different things that we put in place to help people regardless of where they live or their types of lifestyle. So I'm dead certain we'll have something to help you, and I can give you all the advice and support I know to get you humming. That'd be super cool. Is that all hunky-dory, Cindy?
I think so. I think they all know where to find you. Plus, I'll put it in the show notes as well. I'll make sure that I have all the links in the show notes so that they can just link on it. So I want to thank you, Joy, for taking your time. We actually started this interview yesterday. I have to tell everybody. We started this interview yesterday, and we did it on my platform, which was Zoom, is what I use to do interviews. But Joy being in a remote area where, the network kind of comes in and out, I was missing half of her words. So we decided to do it on Joy's platform, which was all via telephone. And Joy, I want to thank you so much for doing this because, we got halfway through the interview and we realised that it just we weren't hearing it. And I think your information is just so important, and I wanted people to hear every word that you had to say. And I want to thank you for recording this through your platform as well. So much appreciative of you being so flexible in what I set up versus what you needed. That was wonderful.
No, that's my pleasure. I'm just glad we got to chat. That's great.
Yeah. Now, for those listening, please give us a 5-star rating. If that's what you think we need, and let everybody know about these wonderful interviews. We've been doing this podcast for well over 4 years now, and so when you really count that up, it's quite scary how many hours that you would hear. But there are some amazing interviews, and Joy's is one of those amazing interviews from a woman that lives a very different lifestyle to probably many of the people that may be listening to this podcast. So if you want to learn more about us, we're on thewellnesscouch.com/up-for-a-chat if you want to find out more information. And we will talk to you next week, and we'll see you on the ride. Thanks for listening in. Bye for now.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives. Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.